Another prime minister resigned today. France is in a complete chaos. How did we get there? How did we get there? It is 5 prime ministers in less than 2 years, and none of them able to build a stable majority. What does the country look like at present? And the French president, Emmanuel Macron. Let's try to dive a bit deeper into it and understand why we are there and why the 5th prime minister in so little time gave his resignation with less than a month on the job. That's the thing, less than a month. He had just started naming his cabinet the day before. And the next morning, he goes to the Élysée and he gives his resignation to Macron. Why? Let's look at this good article, in my opinion, from the BBC. Yet another French PM resigns, spelling yet more trouble for Macron. Yes. So in the end, Emmanuel Macron wasn't able to put it off either. So the prime minister that resigned, his name is Sebastien Lecornu, and he was part of the previous government. So when Sebastien Lecornu was appointed France's prime minister 3.5 weeks ago, not even a month, the spin was that this was President Macron's last card. A last card, we were told, but a good one. Well, didn't work, huh? The 39-year-old was a presidential protégé, loyal, modest, and demonstrative. So Macron took somebody he knew and could get along with and could trust. So it was thought he had what it took to fix a discreet deal between the parties and save the French politics from implosion. Fortunately, he did not, and it's imploding right now. But as it turns out, this wasn't the case. So, and he's gone down in more embarrassing circumstances than his 2 ill-fated predecessors. Okay, the BBC guys are pretty good on that one. At least the other 2, Michel Barnier and François Bayrou, the 2 we had this year that gave their resignation as well, lasted a bit longer. They had time to form a government, put a few ideas on the table, and they did not make it. I mean, the last one was just voted out pretty much by the parliament, who disagreed with his idea, given there is no majority at the parliament. Lecornu, on the other hand, named his cabinet late Sunday afternoon, yesterday, and by Monday morning, he had lost it. He didn't even get to make his inaugural address to Parliament, which was planned for Tuesday. His government lasted for precisely 14 hours, and himself, he lasted for 26 days. So, the immediate cause of his calamitous fin de régime is now clear. It was the conservative Republican Party, LR, and their leader, the Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau. So, let me get into this. You will understand. It makes me think we're back in a kindergarten classroom when I read this. But that's unfortunately what's going on in the French government. So, with its 30 or so MPs, the LR has become a key part of the center-right alliance that is trying to run France. Retailleau has made much of his presence in government about projecting himself and his party as natural candidates for the offices of state. Earlier on Sunday, he told Lecornu that he was willing to stay on as minister. But within an hour of the cabinet being announced, so yesterday evening, he posted on social media that there's been a change of heart, and the LR might not be joining after all. Officially, it was because Lecornu had done the dirty by naming former finance minister Bruno Le Maire as his pick for defense. So these are the musical chairs, because these 3 guys were in the previous government. They were just in different chairs. One was in finance, now he's going to defense. One was there, now he's going to army, and because army was Lecornu, so he's giving his seat to another one. And they don't want to work together, pretty much. Picky things, because they are all in the center or center right. We're not talking about the extreme right, extreme left. No, we're not. This is like the center right party that's supposed to work together for France, for the good of France. And here, They're picky between each other, not wanting to work together because they don't have the right chair. My goodness. So at the end, what happened? He doesn't have the center right with him. He's reduced to pretty much nothing, this poor guy, and he gave his resignation. And they're accusing, LR is accusing Lecornu, so the one who resigned, of hiding Le Maire's nomination. Apparently, he learned it when he turned the TV on. So he got upset as well. These are just so picky things. Very, very picky. At the end of the day, Monday, there was a new twist. Le Maire agreed not to become a minister, and Macron gave his outgoing prime minister a last-minute reprieve of 48 hours to see if he could persuade the LR into the government. So that's the deal they made. Lecornu agreed to try to find some agreement with the LR, the party, to get them into a government. But regardless, he told Macron, I'm going to try my best. I have 48 hours. I'm going to try to put everybody on their chairs pretty much, but I am no longer sitting in mine. I no longer want to be prime minister. So he said, whatever it takes, I don't want to do the job anymore. And at the end, why all the mess between all these guys? So Parliament is a big issue because anything they propose is not going to get voted by Parliament. That's the first thing. There's a lot of extreme right people, extreme left. Both parties want Macron out, and they're voting against anything proposed. So very little chance to find a compromise that suits everybody in the parliament and get it through. So the prime minister is pretty much stuck. But regardless, it's getting harder to find a prime minister and people willing to be in the government because people are trying to distance themselves right now from Macron. All this because the next presidential election is in 2027. So it's a year and a half. And right now, Macron is extremely unpopular. And so unpopular is Macron today that all who associate themselves with him risk a severe beating the next time the public gets a chance to vote. So they don't want to have any part of it. And that includes his former prime minister, Gabriel Attal, who's trying to keep his distance as well. So what option is there for Macron at this point? What can he do? Not that much. I mean, he can try to find another potential prime minister who accepts the job. Not too sure. And I mean, the person is going to stay maybe 3-4 months time to maybe form a government, maybe put some ideas at the table, present them to Congress, who's going to vote no anyway because they don't want Macron. So at the end, they're trying to force Macron out. Marine Le Pen, the extreme right, was extremely clear. She spoke today. As always, she's pretty outspoken. There's a good opportunity for her to take in here. So she spoke right away, saying that this is a clear message for Macron. The French people want you out. You have to quit. If you don't quit, the other option would be to call for legislative elections, parliament. And last time there was a parliament election, Macron lost. He lost. It was the two extremes that got most of their seat, and that's the whole issue. There's no majority. So right now, France is in a pretty deep political mess during a financial crisis, because all this is because we're not doing good financially. The government has to make proposals to solve the deficit and stabilize the budget. And at this point, they can't. So it's not a good situation internally right now for France. And when you look at it externally within the EU, with all these attacks, I mean, these drones, all this, the tone rising, I would say, with Russia, the two main nuclear powers, at least with army, are France and the UK. And at present, France is in no good situation. The somehow positive here is that the army is still very much under Emmanuel Macron. That's really the one thing he still does directly, is doing the foreign affairs and managing the army. He's the commander-in-chief of the army. Even so, we have a minister of the army. He's still very much on top of this, leaving all the internal politics and policy to his ministers. but they're the ones fighting. So we had Homeland Security not agreeing with defense, not agreeing with army, not agreeing. So it's really internal here where they don't agree. So here we go. We need to wait until Wednesday to see if Lecornu manages to put everybody at the table, agreeing to actually sit in a government. And if they agree to sit, who's going to run the government? We don't know yet, because he said he would not do it. So let's wait until Wednesday and see what's next for France here. Maybe we'll get another big headlines with Macron, but I seriously doubt he's going to quit or even dissolve parliament. It won't be at his advantage. He says he was going to stay on the job, and I really think he wants to stay up to the end. So we're going to have to wait until May 2027. And in the meantime, no government, deficit is growing, and that's where we are. So I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please make sure to hit the thumbs up. Post a comment below. Let me know what you think. It greatly helps the channel. And if you want to know more, please check my other videos. You will find the link somewhere on the top of this screen. Thank you all for watching.